Peter Phillips, welcome to the Royal Report. Fabulous to have you with us. What brings you to Australia?
Well, it's very nice to be here for my sort of annual trip to Australia, but on this particular trip I'm here for representing IFAC, which is the International Foundation for Arts and Culture, founded by Dr. Handa, and he supports the Handa Opera on the Harbour, which is in its 11th year, and very much looking forward to being there and seeing the show on the harbour with a spectacular backdrop.
And you do keep coming back to Australia. What do you love about it?
There's much to love about Australia. I mean, the people are great. The lifestyle here is fantastic. You know, the beaches, the sea, and the scenery, the sports. Everything about Australia. I mean, I was lucky enough to live out here in my earlier days, and so I have a real affinity with the country. I have a lot of friends down here, so I don't need really much of an excuse to keep coming back.
Nice. And can you please tell us about Handa's work? How do you support this organisation, and what does that mean to you?
So I've been working with Dr. Handa for nearly 12 years now, and started with ISPS Handa, which was Dr. Handa's support of all abilities golf, and the drive to get all abilities golf in more mainstream and make sure that eventually that all abilities golf could be part of the Olympic movement. And that has, over the last 10-12 years, that's taken huge strides. We've been very successful with the support of Golf Australia and the Australian PGA to be able to have the All Abilities Championship at the Australian Open, where the All Abilities guys are playing on the same course at the same time as the men's professionals, which was a spectacular success. And actually the crowds, there were more people following the All Abilities guys around than some of the men's groups, which was really nice to see. He also pushes sort of the equality of golf. Through Dr. Handa's support and ISPS Handa's support, they had the first ever men's and women's tournament down at the Victoria Open, and that was a huge success. It was a massive organisation, massive logistical organisation, but it's now set the tone. And I think that Handa's support of golf in Australia generally, and the Australian mindset of being able to actually, you know what, we'll try something. It's proved such a success here that it's now been adopted by the DP World Tour and other tours, including the PGA Tour. So, you know, it's been a long journey, long road to get to that point. But there is real momentum behind, you know, having a full inclusion of all abilities and men and women playing at the same level.
That there is just such a fabulous initiative, such a fabulous organisation. And how does that fit in with what you want to achieve personally and more broadly?
Well, I'm a sports fan, a sportsman. I've been involved in sports and entertainment my whole life. And so anywhere where we can push sports for all across any platform, golf is a very easy platform to do it because everyone can participate and everyone can play it. So from my perspective, it was a very easy platform to be able to get involved and support Dr. Handa's vision, because we all want to do the same thing. We all want to drive sport forward and drive inclusivity within sports. So it was Dr. Handa's vision. It was very easy for me and others to be able to support that vision and really make it the reality that it is today.
Now look, I'd love to move on to the family and to your mother, Princess Anne, who is such an integral part of the royal family. How does she inspire you? Because she inspires so many others. So
both our parents have been obviously been hugely influential to Zara and myself, and I think primarily it's through their work ethic. Both of them are incredibly hardworking, and still, both in their 70s, they're still working probably a lot harder than either of them probably expected. But then, as my mother always says, they never, from that perspective, they had pretty good role models from my grandparents who were still working in their 90s. So you know, everyone has a huge amount to live up to, and ultimately they all live by example. They get involved with organisations that they are passionate about and enjoy and want and knowledgeable about, and so actually, you know, the continued evolution and the continued growth of all of those organisations just keeps them going and keeps them energised and wanting to grow with all of the organisations that they are they are associated to.
Is there an anecdote that you'd like to share with us about your mother that encapsulates who she is?
Certainly in the last few years, she's still doing trips, overseas trips, and turning them around in 24 hours, which is pretty hard on most people. Doesn't matter what age, but when you're in your 70s and doing that, it's pretty remarkable. But her mindset is, listen, I can go in, do what I need to do, and come back. And she really values her home time, and values her time with Tim and the family and the dogs and the horses, and that's a really important part of the structure of her week, to be able to actually relax and just get to some form of normality. Normality.
When you're that busy, I'm not sure there is totally a normality there. Look, Princess Anne does do so much work for charity, including overseas and even here in Australia. We know that she's very close to the King. She was his gold stick in waiting during the coronation, which was just absolutely sensational to watch. Do you think she gets the recognition that she deserves?
I think so now, yes. I think in the past she has always been, she's not always been sort of the media's favourite, so to speak. But she's never really let that bother her. She's always just kept her head down, and she's kept supporting the organisations that she wants to support. They may not be the most interesting, the most on topic, as it were, but for her that doesn't matter. She's not there. She's there to support them and grow the organisations and help them develop. So she's never been one that really worries about how many column inches she gets, and from that perspective, she just keeps her head down the whole time and just keeps working away, and leaves others to worry about column inches.
That's very admirable. Now, moving on to the King, we know he's had a challenging couple of months. Is he in good spirits? He still seems in recent weeks to getting back amongst it to the extent that he can.
Listen, he's in good spirits. I think ultimately he's hugely frustrated. He's frustrated that he can't get on and do everything that he wants to be able to do. But he's very pragmatic. He understands that there's a period of time that he really needs to focus on himself. But at the same time, he is always pushing his staff and everybody and his doctors and nurses to be able to say, actually, can I do this? Can I do that? So I think the overriding message would be that he's obviously very keen to get back to a form of normality, and is probably frustrated that recovery is taking a little longer than probably he would want it to.
Now, look, there is a royal visit planned to Australia later in the year. Why is Australia such a special place for the royal family?
I think, apart from anything else, most of us have spent quite a bit of time out here, and as a result, there is a huge affinity with the country. There's a huge affinity with the people. All of us have friends over here, and we all love coming over and seeing them and spending time with them. And when they come over to the UK, it's fantastic, and we host them and look after them. And it's so from that perspective, there are some fairly deep ties to the country. Obviously, the King spent time at school here, and the people, the countryside, everything about the lifestyle here. I think everyone is doesn't really need a second invitation to be able to come and visit Australia.
And this will be his first official visit to Australia. What do you think that he and the Queen would like to achieve, I suppose, in that first visit?
Oh, that's a good question. I think they would obviously love to see as many people as possible. They are very keen and very active to be able to be seen and meet as many people as possible from all walks of life, and that is what they've sort of set their goal on, and being able to be seen to be accessible to as many people as possible.
And Queen Camilla, she's obviously become such an integral part of the King's life, and while he always seems to be on the go and wanting to do more and more. She really does seem like that steadying force. Is that fair to say?
I think so, yes. I mean, I think she has also, it's obviously a massive transition for her over the last, 15, 20 years or so. And she has, she's taken it all in her stride, and she's built up her profile and her role, and obviously, and the new role that adds a whole load more responsibilities to it. And she has, undoubtedly, they have been a huge support to one another through that whole process and through the whole transition. And it's, as I say, they're fantastic together, and they support each other and they energise each other as well.
And that there is completely obvious to anyone, even from the outside watching in. It's very easy to tell that they are incredibly close and incredibly supportive of each other. And that, I suppose, extends to the broader family. The King has had a few challenges recently, in particular in relation to his health. But how does the Prince of Wales and other family members like yourself, how, I suppose, does the family muck in to support?
Everyone has their own different role to play, I think, is the short answer to that. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure on the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh at the moment, my mother, to be able to take on a lot more of, and the Queen, obviously, to take on a lot more of the responsibilities and lots more of the engagement perspective. And I think that adds its own pressures. There are other members of the family who are able to support everyone else behind the scenes, and that is, in many ways that's equally as important. But there is definitely there's a short-term pressure on certain members of the family to be able to continue to be out and about and to be seen and to support, and not only just to support organisations, but also conduct the official engagements that need to be done.
I'd just like to touch briefly on the late Queen and obviously your grandmother. As the eldest grandson, and how are you adjusting to life without her? She was such a huge figure.
Yeah, I mean, she was remarkable in so many ways. She was obviously a figurehead that had been part of everybody's lives for as long as people could remember. And for us, she was, as having her as a grandmother and a role model was unique. And I was lucky to be in Scotland before she passed. And actually having those few days with her, just in Scotland, just as a family, as a quiet, before she left Balmoral, that was really nice. That was, looking back on it, it's still quite emotional, that part, because it was a proper family moment. And then obviously once she left Balmoral, it became more of a public grieving. Then in many ways it's sort of we'd had our quiet moment with her, we'd said our goodbyes, so whilst it still wasn't particularly easy, it was easier being able to share the public's grief for her. But she still, both her and the Duke of Edinburgh still have left a huge imprint on all of our lives, and still to this, and they will do for the rest of our lives, because how they live their lives, how they taught us to grow up and behave, and this, that, and the other. Their fingerprints are left in everything that we do, and it's change is inevitable. Some people don't like it, but at the end of the day, I think that the King has been remarkable in the way that he has handled the transition not ripping up the rule book and not ripping up everything that his parents had put in place over the previous sort of 70 years, but he has kept the core of what they stood for, and has put his own mark on it. And I think that's probably the greatest testament to both of them, that he's doing things his way, but very much with a nod to the way that they always did it, and the core of what they taught us and how they and what they left us.
And that I suppose shows the strength of that connection and the understanding of the role. And do you think that is something in relation to both the Queen and the late Duke of Edinburgh that made them special, I suppose, not only as the Queen as a regent, but also as grandparents and parents, that passing down?
Yes, I mean, I think, when you're lucky enough to have your grandparents around for a significant part of your life, there is a greater connection with anybody's grandparents, and a greater respect and a greater ability to be able to learn from them, being able to sit with them and talk about different parts of their lives, and which in our case was fascinating because it was part of history, and such a transient part of history as well. That they will, those times talking to them and sitting with them and listening to them is very difficult for it not to have a significant impact on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I just want to briefly touch on the Princess of Wales, about her health. That there is a very private and family matter, but on the wider matter of public support, that must be very heartening for the family more broadly.
No, 100%, and I think for her and for the King, the outpouring of support for both of them and well wishes for both of them to recover quickly has been hugely heartening. She is she's remarkable in herself. She's without any question, she is. Her and William make a fantastic team together. Their kids are great, and they have the balance of public life and trying to be parents to 3 young children, which is always difficult. And I think they've got it pretty right, because I think as history has taught us, and anyone knows that actually you want to be there for your children when they are where they're of a certain age. You want to be able to go and drop them off at school and pick them up from school and go and watch matches and be part of their school lives. And and I think that balance of doing the family life and also the public life, I think they've pretty much got that bang on.
And I suppose when you are in the public eye all the time, that is a challenge in itself. Those family moments and those quiet times, and even when the broader family gets together, that must be such an incredibly important part.
It is, completely, and we're very lucky that whilst we probably don't see as much of each other as we would like to, as you say, when we are together, it's a very important time, and it's not just for us as cousins, but it's also for all of our children to be together. It was when my grandparents were alive, it's about them being able to spend time with their great grandchildren, and so these times are important, and as certainly when you look at it from my grandparents' perspective, the older they got, the more time you made to be able to go and see them and allow their great-grandchildren to spend time with them, because it's a pretty unique situation that any child can spend time with their great-grandparents. So family time together is so important, and it just strengthens that bond of support that everybody needs, and certainly in tough times is really important.
Well, look, we wish the Princess of Wales and the King too a speedy recovery, and we hope very much that you enjoy the rest of your trip to Australia and that you're back soon. And Peter, thank you so much for your time with us today.
Thank you.